Hello Bitsrude, this is Craig from bitsbox.co.uk here with another video, and in this one it's going to be the ultimate beginner's guide to FDM printing. So if you're a total noob to FDM printing, then hopefully this video can help you in some way, whether it be deciding which printer to pick up, what you need to do to get started, where to find stuff to print, and so on. So FDM 3D printing has come a long way over the last few years and has become more popular and more accessible than ever, with a lot of modern printers these days being a lot easier to use and very affordable as well. Chances are you probably know someone who owns a 3D printer. If not, then you've almost certainly seen some 3D printed items. Those articulated dragons and fidget toys, they seem to be everywhere now, and maybe you're watching this video because you want to make them yourself, for your children of course. And as we're a wargaming channel, then we do get a lot of wargamers, so you may want to do FDM printing to print some awesome terrain pieces for your gaming board, or maybe you've just seen lots of cool and practical uses for 3D printers, little 3D printed pieces around the home. I have quite a few myself, and maybe that's what you want to do, or you want to use it with woodworking or anything, whatever you want to use it for. Hopefully this video will help you get into this amazing hobby. Before we get into it, I will just say again, this is for the FDM plastic printing. If you want a beginner's guide into resin 3D printing, then I have a video for that as well. So yeah, I'll put a link to that somewhere in this video, down below, whatever. Or just search it. So let's crack into looking for which printer to buy. So to find a printer that's right for you, I think yeah, it can be quite overwhelming when you first get into this hobby, because there are just so many printers on the market. There's new ones being released all the time, and yeah, for someone who's just going straight into this with no research or anything, it can be quite overwhelming. So this video is going to try and help narrow that focus down for you. But before you even look for any printers, you need to determine what your budget is, and I will typically say knock off about £50 of that budget, because you will need to buy rolls of filament as well. And £50, that, you know, you can get about 3 or 4 filaments for that, depending on where you look. So that's quite a good way to get started. I mean, you could just buy the one filament, like maybe sort of 10, 15, £20, depending on which one you want, and that's fine. But yeah, just knock off £50, because there are other little bits and pieces you might need as well. And I will say everything is going to be in pounds in this video, as I'm British, so yeah. And once you've determined your budget, you might want to think about whether you want a printer that can print multiple filaments at once and multiple colours. And a lot of these will typically do about 4 colours at once. You can expand them to more, but this will add on an extra price to your printer. A lot of these sort of AMS systems, as they are called, you can buy further down the line and add to certain printers, so you don't have to buy them initially. But it's something to keep in mind if that's what you want or not. Another factor you want to take into account is the build plate size, and think roughly what you want to use the printer for and what size you will need for that. Obviously you can print stuff in pieces and glue them together, of course, so you can get away with smaller printers even for larger objects. And just going back to like the multicolored AMS system, I don't think like it's really something that's really necessary unless you can budget for it. I actually prefer to print a lot of stuff in separate pieces of different colours and then just glue them together at the end. And for example, I've done that a lot with these Italian brain rot toys that my daughter is totally obsessed with. But yeah, they're certainly not needed. If you want to print like miniature terrain, typically paint these anyway, or if you want some sort of storage systems like a Gridfinity system, I mean, you can normally just print them all separately in whatever colour you want and put them all in your storage solution at the end. So things like that, you don't really need the multicolour prints. And with a lot of multicoloured printers as well, there is additional waste, and of course the time it takes to print things is a lot longer as well, which is the case for most printers, but not all. So anyway, enough waffling, let's talk about the printers themselves. So if you were to go into any 3D printing group or forum, go on Reddit or whatever, and you ask, I'm a complete beginner to this hobby, which printer should I buy? You'll probably hear the word Bamboo, or the words Bamboo Lab, because from my experience and the experience of a lot of people, Bamboo do offer the best beginner-friendly 3D printers, and for their prices as well, they are just very good. They are in no way sponsoring this video, and I will talk about some other printers as well. But I do highly recommend getting a Bamboo printer, and which one you get will largely depend on your budget. So let's have a look at some of them. So for a low end budget, the A1 Mini is absolute champion. At the time of recording this, it is available for £150 or £149.99, and that's without the AMS, and you can get the AMS with it for in the bundle for £259.99. So that's if you want to do your multicolored print, and you can have up to 4 filaments, as I said earlier. So yeah, it is worth getting as well if you're like me and you're a bit lazy, and when you want to go through different colors, you don't have to keep changing the filament out. You got 4 there already. So I suppose it's a lot of money. It was like £110 extra just for not being lazy. But yeah, it has its uses as well, of course. But yeah, the A1 Mini, of course, is a small printer, so you do get a small build plate with that. But at the time of recording, the regular A1 printer is only £50 more than the A1 Mini. So I think if you can budget to the A1, then I would highly recommend getting the A1. I actually have both. I have the A1 and the A1 Mini, and I also have a Bamboo P2S as well, which we'll look at later as well in this video. It's not just the printers themselves with their self-leveling feature that makes them good for beginners. It's also that they can be used without the need of a computer or a laptop, and we'll go more into that later in this video when we look at how to print files. So both of these printers are what are known as bed slinger printers. So essentially the bed moves around backwards and forwards as it prints, and they're not enclosed as well. So you might want a printer that is enclosed. And if you're at the lower end of the price spectrum, then and you still want like a 4-color printer, then I think the FlashForge AD5X is a great printer for this. It's £359, but it's really good. I mean, FlashForge sent me their Adventurer Pro, which has been an absolute great printer for me. You won't get the advantage of printing without a PC or laptop like you do in the Bamboos, but it's still a really good printer nonetheless. And then my Adventurer actually prints a little bit quicker than the Bamboo printers as well. Another good printer is the Elegoo Centuri Carbon 2, which for the combo is £399, or you can get it on its own for £259 at the time of recording. I haven't used this, but I have used, obviously I use Elegoo a lot for resin 3D printing, and I have used one of their old 3D printers as well. Elegoo are a great company with excellent customer support, so you can't go wrong with them. And whilst these may not be as beginner friendly as the Bamboo printers, they are certainly great alternatives at these lower price points. So, but we will head back to Bamboo, and if you do have a higher budget, then the P1S or the P2S, as I mentioned earlier, are great printers. And yeah, I certainly highly recommend them. I am absolutely loving my P2S at the moment. It did cost me about £700, but it is a beast. So if you're looking at a printer on a higher budget, then yeah, that is certainly one I would definitely recommend. Of course, it's in an enclosure as well. So I don't want to overwhelm you with a lot of printers, so I won't keep going on. If you want me to tell you exactly which printer to recommend, like definitive, gun to my head, I have to only pick one, then I would say the Bamboo A1 is probably one of the best printers for beginners. It's got a decent sized build plate, it's a decent price point, it's basically like the Goldilocks printer, I suppose. Not too expensive, not too small, and yeah, that would be the one I would recommend. So if you come to this video just looking to find out which printer to buy, then yeah, that's my recommendation. But that is no way to say that if you buy another printer that you'll be wrong, because there's so many great printers these days, and so many of them are beginner friendly. And while I'm just briefly mentioning other printers, I'm going to give a special shout out to the Snapmaker U1. I haven't used it yet, but it's about the same price point as the P2S, so on a bit of a higher end. But it's a multicolored printer that uses a lot less waste and can print a lot faster in multiple colors, and it's something I really want to pick up soon. And yeah, if I can just work out where I'm going to put it, then I will certainly order one. And that brings me nicely on to the next point, is you need to work out where you're going to put your printer. You need some space for it. All the dimensions of these printers are listed online, and if you have something with an AMS, which is separate, like the Bamboo A1 and A1 Mini. They pretty much double the footprint of a printer. Although with the A1 you can print top mounts and stuff, and you can wall mount the AMS as well, so you can keep that in mind. But yeah, you need somewhere to put them. A nice sturdy work surface is ideal. I mean, some people do put them on the floor as well, or they'll buy like special shelving to have them on. As long as you've got somewhere fairly sturdy for them, you can't go wrong. So let's talk about filament, and the most common type of filament is called PLA, which comes in a variety of different colours, and is the most common type used for 3D printing. If you want something a bit more durable, then PETG is a popular choice also. And for most things, you'll just be printing in PLA. If you want something that's going to go outside or sit in direct sunlight, then yeah, definitely go PETG over PLA, because this stuff will melt and warp in the sun. But typically, for most uses around the house, for miniatures, little statues, whatever, toys especially, then yeah, PLA is the filament to pick from. There are other filament types as well. ASA is another filament that offers great durability and heat resistance. And if you're looking for something flexible, then maybe TPU would be the way to go. But I don't think the AMS systems on the Bamboo handles TPU very well, so I think they have their own TPU for AMS that you have to buy. If you do plan to print with something that's not PLA or PETG, then definitely go for one of the enclosed printers, as the fumes from stuff like ASA are a little bit toxic, so you don't want to be breathing a lot of that in. In an ideal world, you don't want to breathe in too much fumes from these either, so try not to have a printer like just right on top of you in a place where you're going to be spending like a lot of hours. I probably won't keep it in the bedroom. Not just for that either, just for the noise. If you're printing overnight as well, you'd get no sleep. But yeah, be mindful of that. Do your own research when it comes to safety. But I mean, I have one of my printers in here, on the other side of the room, but I can easily ventilate this room if I need to. That's never been much of an issue. And when it comes to buying filaments, there are lots of different brands. Of course, Bamboo, Elegoo, who we've spoke about before, they have their own filaments. You don't have to buy a filament that matches your printer. You can just buy any of them, really. I do like buying the Bamboo ones, and if you do go on the Bamboo website and buy some, then just make sure you buy the ones with the reel when you first start and not the refills, because you do need the reel before you can actually refill it. So yeah, that's just something to keep in mind. But you can purchase the empty reels as well if you do accidentally buy refills. So when it comes to storing filaments, you do need somewhere to store them. Now I just use these shelves which are already here, and I've just 3D printed some little brackets with some dowels going across to store them like that. I suppose I could store them on top of each other as well. But because they're exposed like this, they will absorb moisture from the air, and this can make them go a little bit brittle after a while. So further down the line, you may want to get yourself a filament dryer if you find that your filament starts getting a bit brittle and start snapping. I mean, this one feels okay, but you'll know further down the line. But when I say further down the line, I'm talking months, really. You certainly won't need to buy one on day one of this hobby, not at all. So don't sweat about it just yet. Again, this is something you could do your own research into if need be, and it will depend, of course, on humidity in your environment. So you've ordered your printer, you've ordered your filament, it's all arrived, and now you want to set up your printer. If I were a smarter man, I'd have filmed myself setting up the P2S when I first got it, but I didn't because I was just too eager to get into printing. And yeah, I mean, to be honest, it's very easy to set up, and they all come with these little booklets. Just follow that page by page. A lot of it is just removing packaging, and there's little things that are normally screwed in just to stop things moving about in transit. You just take them out, take off the cable ties and whatnot. I don't know how well you can see this, but yeah, just very straightforward. Just clip on the screen, and yeah, I mean they're mostly fully assembled these days, which is really good. And setting up the AMS is very straightforward as well. So yeah, honestly, just follow it. It's a lot easier than you probably think it is. It probably took me about an hour to do that, and about 20 to 30 minutes of that is the calibration that the printer has to do. So yeah, it's really easy. They're almost straight out of the box. So now your printer is set up and ready to go. The first thing that I would recommend doing is printing a Benchy. So Confusingly, Benchy is a little boat, and this is typically installed on a lot of printers as standard, especially on the Bamboo printers. There's a little file that you can just click to print, and this is a great little print just to get a rough idea of how your printer is printing. If there's any failures on here, then you know there'll be some issues, but typically there wouldn't be. And yeah, and you'll be left with a nice little Benchy like so. And I've printed a load of these. Every time I get a printer, I always print a Benchy. And you can print them very quickly. It takes about 20 minutes on the Bamboos. And yeah, I mean, are you really in this 3D printing hobby if you haven't printed a Benchy? Probably not. And one thing I also point out as well is that when you are printing, your nozzle will heat up to over 200 degrees C, and your build plate will be roughly around 60 degrees. So if you haven't got an enclosed printer, then do keep that in mind if you have any little ones running about. You don't want any little small hands touching these hot pieces. Once your printer's finished, you need to remove it from the build plate. Typically they'll pop off quite easily, but if you do have any difficulty, then just let the build plate cool down a little bit and it should make it easier. If not, you can use a little scraper, and Bamboo are good at supplying these little blades that you can just print a handle for, and then they're really good for scraping stuff off the build plate if you really have to. If not, you can normally just buy little scrapers quite cheaply, and they do the job just as well. So next up, you'll want to find some prints of your own, and there are several ways to do this. If you have a Bamboo printer, then the easiest way will be to use the Bamboo Handy app. This is a great app that's linked to the MakerWorld website, so everything that's on MakerWorld is on the Bamboo Handy app, and you can just send any files you want wirelessly to your printer, and they'll all have all supports already in place as well, and we'll talk about them in a little bit. All the files are just ready to print straight from the app in just a touch of a few buttons. And yeah, what you print is entirely up to you, of course. If you do have an AMS, then I do recommend printing a little poop bucket. So the little bits of waste that you get from printing is typically referred to as poop. And yeah, a little sort of bucket or container to catch these in is usually quite handy. As well as the Bamboo app and MakerWorld, there are other websites you can go on as well. Printables is really good, and Thingiverse. And basically, if you just search for anything you want and then put the letters STL after it, that normally finds the 3D files. Most 3D files are typically STL files. And of course, if you are downloading from other websites or using your computer or laptop and don't have a Bamboo printer, then you'll probably need to use a slicer. Now, a lot of 3D printer companies, they have their own slicing software. Bamboo have Bamboo Studio, and my FlashForge has FlashPrint. And in these slicers, you will need to import the 3D file that you want to print. Now, one advantage of using these over the app, even if you do have a Bamboo printer, is that you can resize your print. You can clone it so you can print multiple at once to save time. So once you've got your file to the size you want and how many you need, it's best to then check to see if it needs supports. Any sort of overhangs and that will need supports, as the printers cannot print in midair. But the slicer will put these in automatically for you. In the case of Bamboo Studio, you literally just click this button. I like to use the tree supports, and yeah, it'll just automatically add them to your print when you click slice. It's always best really just to have this option on, regardless of whether your print needs it or not, just in case you ever forget to turn it on. But then the slicers are normally quite good at telling you if you do need supports or not. There are lots of other settings you can tinker with as well in the slicer. I'm not going to go into them all here because this is a beginner's guide. You may want to look at wall infill maybe. This can alter how strong the pieces are, and if you don't necessarily want them strong, you could make this lower so it prints faster. But apart from that, there's not really a lot of settings here that you really need to worry about initially. But of course, as you sort of do this hobby more and learn more about it, then you may want to look up what all the little bits and pieces do, but typically I don't really worry about most of what's in the slicer, to be fair. And then once you're ready, you can click the slice button and send it to your printer. So yeah, a lot of modern printers you can just send wirelessly, but if you have an older printer or a printer that doesn't have wireless capabilities, then you'll just save onto a micro SD card or a USB stick, and then just pop that in your printer and click print. And then it's really just a case of waiting. Now, a lot of prints will take several hours to do unless you're printing something quite small. So yeah, just be patient and go do something else while you wait. And some of these printers have cameras on them as well, so you can even check from an app to see if they're printing all right. But they're typically modern printers and their bed leveling capabilities. You're very rarely going to have any terrible failures these days. And with your first successful print done, you are now officially in the 3D printing hobby. And yeah, you should have the tools that you need to go on and print as much as you want now, just from the information in this video, or at least I hope that has helped. You might watch this and think it sounds too simple, and 10 years ago it would not have been this simple, but it really is fairly straightforward these days. And as I said at the beginning of the video, more and more people are having them. They're a great tool to have, and it wouldn't surprise me if in the future almost everyone will own one. So before I end the video, a couple of little things to point out. If you are printing in multiple parts and you want to stick them together, then in most cases super glue will be fine. I like to use these little Loctite ones because I always find when I use super glue they always dry up, so I always use like little ones. For larger things you might want something a bit stronger, something like Araldite, which is like sort of a two-part adhesive. But for smaller prints, super glue is just fine. If you're printing stuff to paint, then I do recommend maybe something like a Citadel primer on them. Treat them like you would Warhammer miniatures if you're part of that hobby. Acrylic paints are just fine. Sometimes you have to be careful that paints, if they're too thin, they will run into the layer lines and they might go where you don't want them, so just be mindful of that. I don't want to put anyone off a hobby, but there will be times where a print might fail for whatever reason, or you might have imperfections. Before auto bed leveling was a thing, the most common issue people faced was prints not sticking to the build plate. With auto bed leveling now, that's a very rare issue. You might get items that might maybe slip off a build plate mid-print, they might not have stuck down properly, in which case some people like to use a glue stick or hairspray, just spray the build plate with some hairspray, and there's a product you can get called 3D lac, and I think it is literally hairspray. It smells exactly the same as hairspray. I think it's just been reballed, but I use it and it does the job really well. Keep in mind that you ideally want a consistent temperature around your printer as well. Anything sort of room temperature and above is ideal. You can get odd little bits of warping if the environment is too cool around your print, and so that's something to be mindful of just in case that does happen. Also, filament can sometimes get tangled on the reel. A lot of modern printers will detect this now and they will pause the print until you untangle it, and then they can carry on. I also find sometimes with the AMS on the A1 and the A1 Mini, sometimes the filament struggles just getting through the last bit of the tube. This is just down to sometimes the angle of these, so sometimes I have had to sort of lift them up just while the filament feeds itself into the nozzle, and then after that it will print just fine. But there's so many little tiny little things that might go wrong. 99 times out of 100 with these modern printers your print should be absolutely fine, so I won't worry too much about these issues. And if you come across any, then there's almost certainly someone on Reddit who has had the same issue, and there'll be someone else on Reddit who has helped them solve it. And I think that's true of anything in life these days. And that's about all I'm going to say in this video. I can't think of anything else off the top of my head to include in this one. I might do a follow-up video all about maybe selling 3D prints and running a business doing that, and I might just do that for resin and FDM together and just do a whole sort of business style video on that. And if that's something you want to see, then do let me know down below. Of course, if you have any questions, stick them down below and I'll be happy to answer them. And I know there's loads of other great printers. Maybe some people will start recommending other printers as well. I just don't want to list too many in this video, but I'm sure there's someone watching this who has maybe used a different printer and they think they're just superior to all the ones I've mentioned. So yeah, feel free to start any discussions down below if you so wish. And all that's left to say is thank you so much for watching this video. Do feel free to hit that like button, and you can subscribe if you haven't done so already. And there is some 3D printing content on this channel, and I will do a little bit more. It's just a mix of 3D print and wargaming and what have you, just whatever I'm into, I like to make videos on. So thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you all again in the next video.